when wanting to be a game developer, there's usually two methods that you can either use. You can drag and drop, or you can actually script. And today we're just going to dive deep into the benefits of both. The drag and drop method. This method is usually used with game engines such as GameMaker. Not to discredit it, but it is used a lot in GameMaker to create, I would say, like platform or sort of simplistic games. Not something that you would see on like a Grand Theft Auto sort of scale. And when you actually script, you see something more of, yes, a basic game. However, you can also see something complex, something as a Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, that sort of game. Both methods are extremely useful depending on skill level and what you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to make something of a small Pac-Man game and you're still learning the basics of actual game development, drag and drop may be for you, especially if you're using, let's say, like GameMaker or Construct, Scratch, something like that, where it's visual, where you get to actually see like this button is for movement, and if I select up, down, left, right, then my player can actually move in said direction. While using another button, let's say for gravity, meaning that if you press the A button, he's going to jump, but he needs to fall down in a specific speed. And I'm using GameMaker as reference because that was where I learned majority of my drag and drop. You can also do a little bit more complex stuff depending on what you need, especially with drag and drop. Let's say you want the walls to be bouncy, so if I jump to the wall, I actually bounce off just a little bit and land on my feet. You can do that in drag and drop. You can also make icy terrain, depending on, like, let's say you're making a Super Mario Brothers clone, and let's say this let's say ice surface allows me to slide while moving in a specific, adding momentum to your character. You can do that in drag and drop fairly easy. You can also do it in scripting, but it's a little bit easier, I would say, in drag and drop. Also setting timers, bullets, instances of creation, stuff like that, it's a lot easier in drag and drop. However, when moving towards the more complex ideas, something, let's say a Call of Duty, when we're moving towards something like that where you have to add lots of physics, especially for the bullets, movements, and such things like that, using a scripting language, depending on whatever your preference is, I would say is a lot better for you, because you have control over every little aspect and you're not relying too much on that game engine depending on what your specific needs are. However, being a game developer, everyone has their own preferences. Mine now is scripting. I actually gave up drag and drop back in college because I didn't want to do that. I wanted to learn how to actually script. I actually used GameMaker and created my own games using the GML language, which is the GameMaker language, if people didn't know. I created a couple of games, Mega Man Clone, Streets of Rage beat 'em up game that I was co-developing with Jaden. All these projects that we did in GameMaker, I did with Jaden, and we had another partner, and so on and so forth. I created my own separate game where it was a Mario clone. I'm not going to say what the name is. Jaden, you know what it is, and I'm pretty sure you're going to leave it in a comment, but don't do that. Using that sort of game, I scripted it. I did a lot of little complex things to it, and it was a fairly decent game. However, now that I'm using bigger engines such as Unity, everything I do is scripted. Especially what I do for my back ends, my front ends, and everything else, I like to code. So for me, I prefer ditching drag and drop all entirely, unless this is your first time around, you're trying to learn the basics of game development. However, I do advise that you actually get a little bit of coding experience. Just dive in there, see what you can do. There's tons of YouTube tutorials. There's tons of people that can actually teach you, especially with videos. And you can get a little bit of knowledge into it. And when you do that, I challenge you to keep pushing yourself. And such as games that you've seen on PlayStation, a lot of them were built in GameMaker using probably drag and drop. Some of them using the extra scripting language. But coding is always going to be your best friend. To me, I prefer people who actually code rather than drag and drop, because then you rely on drag and drop too much and then you'll never understand the basic principles of programming, and it kind of hinders what you can do, and you'll never actually get to dive in deep to build a bigger games, stuff that are way more complex, or even just understanding the basic principles of physics, because that is a very math intensive, but you also need to code those sort of stuff. So if you're trying to build a game like Mario Galaxy, yeah, you may be able to do it in drag and drop. However, you have more freedom, more control, and less overall headaches if you just do it in script. I know that I'm a little biased in it, but as a game developer, I can't stress how important learning how to program and understanding the concepts and procedures of actually jumping into code are. So, with that being said, let me know what your preferred game engine is, language, or if you prefer drag and drop. Tell me the benefits and the negatives. We might see it in the next video. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Did you enjoy this video? Make sure to hit that like button. To show your support, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I post videos just like this every single week.